Today's stage was a dominant performance by Tadej Pogacar. His 100th victory in the World Champions jersey, which was phenomenal. I mean, it was, we're running out of superlatives to describe Tadej, but he made the race today. He put his team on the front before that last climb, and they were really going. But to launch the attack, we all knew he was going to launch that attack. And when he did, Jonas was the only one who could stay with him up to a certain point. Jonas cracked slightly, then came back to him. But then for Tadej to go again in the bunch sprint, in the small group finish, and beat Mathieu van der Poel in an uphill finish like that, just shows his class. I mean, this guy is getting closer and closer to how we remember Eddie Merckx. He's Merckx-esque in terms of his greatness.
I'm the 2012 Tour de France winner, Sir Bradley Wiggins.
And I'm Johan Bruyneel. I directed my teams to 9 Tour de France victories. Welcome to the Sir Wiggo and Johan Show, our daily show where we dive deep into the tactics behind every stage of the Tour de France. Okay, Bradley, let's talk about today's stage, stage 4. Our show, as every day, is presented by Ketone IQ. We're going to talk later about it. But Bradley, what's your opinion of today's stage?
Today's stage was a dominant performance by Tadej Pogacar. His 100th victory in the World Champions jersey, which was phenomenal. I mean, it was, we're running out of superlatives to describe Tadej, but he made the race today. He put his team on the front before that last climb, and they were really going. But to launch the attack, we all knew he was going to launch that attack. And when he did, Jonas was the only one who could stay with him up to a certain point. Jonas cracked slightly, then came back to him. But then for Tadej to go again in the bunch sprint, in the small group finish, and beat Mathieu van der Poel in an uphill finish like that, just shows his class. I mean, this guy is getting closer and closer to how we remember Eddie Merckx. He's Merckx-esque in terms of his greatness.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy how he does it. I mean, I'm also really blown away, Bradley. I don't know what you think about how easy and comfortable he looks in the peloton. Until he really goes for it 100%, he just looks chill.
He does, and he always, and he avoids all the problems and crashes. Yeah. We never see him have a problem.
Yeah,
he just, and that goes with having good legs. You got good legs, you seem to miss all the problems and issues. But Tadej, and he's been very restrained the last few days, hasn't he? We expected this kind of attack maybe a few days ago in Boulogne-sur-Mer and that, but he's ridden the perfect race up to this point now, and it's panning out to be certainly a 2-horse race as we expected, but more than ever now after today, and I think it will be confirmed tomorrow, maybe after the time trial, is that he is now the clear favourite for this race. But Jonas is very close. The only sort of dent in Jonas's armour is that slight crack 100 metres from the summit today, which was a bizarre one because he had the legs to come back to Tadej.
Yeah. I'm personally not reading too much into it. It's obviously favoring Tadej, this 10% explosive climbs. I think it was very telling that he could come back. That he got dropped, he came back. That says a lot about Jonas Vingegaard's form. Anyway, before we go into more details, Brad, let's talk about our first sponsor of the day.
Yeah, first sponsor. I want to talk to you a bit about Join today. So Join is the #1 training app that puts a professional cycling coach right in your pocket. You don't need a big goal to benefit from training. Join helps you stay fit, focused, and consistent even when there's no event in sight. Join keeps it interesting with challenges, variety, and smart progression. With over 400 World Tour level workouts for road, mountain bike, and gravel, Join creates personalized training plans that adapt to your schedule and performance in real time. It recalibrates, which is really interesting. It recalibrates when you miss a workout. It prevents overtraining before it even starts, which is a great feature. Designed by experts with World Tour level experience, Join helps cyclists of all levels maximize progress while avoiding overtraining. Whether you're training for your first century, your next race, or just want to be stronger when you ride, Join makes professional level coaching accessible to everyone. Call to action: no race, no problem. Join keeps you riding stronger just for the love of it. Discover your path at join.cc/the move. Download Join today and transform the way you train. Join.cc/the move.
Okay, before we go into Bradley into the action of the favorites in the final, I just want to talk a little bit about first of all we have the typical breakaway of four strong riders who took up the majority of the stage, and I think we could see today what we talked about 2 or 3 days ago. That the break was they had 2-3 minutes and the peloton didn't chase, and just by the nervousness in the peloton, they got reeled in.
Yeah. That was it. It was through no fault of their own, the nervousness and the anxiety in the peloton and the crashes again we saw today. And the natural, people, preparing themselves for what was coming in that final. Everyone wanted to be in the front, and it just, that forced the momentum, and the speed of the peloton went greater and greater and greater as everyone was trying to stay in the front. And it was a shame for the breakaway, because that was a really strong break, but it was inevitable really on a day like today. I know George said on the main show yesterday that he thought this was a day for the breakaways, but in this modern day cycling, week 1 of the Tour de France, there was no other outcome in my mind that we wouldn't see a finish contested with the guys we've been talking about for the first week.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you would always say, okay, there's a guy like Asgreen there, very famous for having breakaways make it to the finish. Abrahamson, very strong rider. Extraordinary, actually, the story of Abrahamson, because in the Tour of Belgium 2 weeks ago, he broke his collarbone. Yeah. This guy broke his collarbone in a crash, and he's at the start of the Tour. I followed his training a bit. I mean, I don't know if it was a serious break or if it was a fracture, but 2 days after the crash, I watched the crash in Tour of Belgium. It was a bad crash. 2 days after, he was on the home trainer, and 4 days after, he announced he was going to the Tour de France. And here he is already fighting for stage wins. But also what I really want to remark today was Lenny Martinez. Lenny Martinez was, the first day, he was the worst rider of the whole peloton. He could not follow the wheels. Yet today he was in there.
Yeah, I mean, he apparently he's quite renowned for this. He's renowned for, having really off days and then bouncing back in a matter of days or the next day and doing something special. I mean, we saw him at the Dauphiné win the Queen stage, and I think the day before lost a packet of time. So, but he's when he produces. I mean, this isn't the last we've seen of him in this Tour de France, Lenny. But it was good to see him out there after stage 1, because that was painful to watch on stage 1. Anyone finishing just in front of the broom wagon is not a nice experience.
No, it was horrible. He was by himself, in the cars, coming back, dropped again, really getting dropped by himself on flat roads. This is a guy who probably has, a problem of getting into the rhythm. But today was not a real stage for him either. I think we're going to see him. We're going to see him in mountain stages probably, or a few of them. But I think he wanted to make a point and probably have a go at the Pocket jersey, which is now back with Tadej Pogačar. I want to talk about that a little bit later. But I mean, other than that, Bradley, as we expected, with 40K to go, you could feel the stress. UAE was taking control in the last 30 kilometers. Then we had Visma, Elisa Bike really doing an unbelievable lead out for those last climbs. Before we go into how developed the final of the race with Tadej and Jonas and Mathieu van der Poel and others, I want to talk about ketone IQ. Ketone IQ, we all know that ketones are used widely through the peloton. Some teams, amongst them Visma Lease Bike, are using our brand Ketone IQ. This is my preferred product here, my shot of 10 grams of pure ketones, clean shot of energy, no sugar, no caffeine. Ketone IQ has been working with Visma Lease Bike, and it's been scientifically proven that ketones nowadays boost athletic performance. In a placebo-controlled study with trained athletes, Ketone IQ boosted average sprint power by 19%, peak power by 13%, and cut fatigue by 10%, spiked blood ketones 5 times in just 20 minutes. They've also discovered, and this is very important for Tour de France riders, that ketones help for a faster recovery. Ketone IQ teamed up with Visma Lease Bike and with the University of Leuven to explore recovery and high altitude adaptation, and their findings are impressive. They found improved blood flow, higher muscle oxygenation for better endurance and stamina. So take your shot, get 30% off your subscription plus a free gift with your second shipment at ketone.com/themove. That's ketone.com/themove. Bradley, the race gets into the final. We have 30K to go. It's crazy. We have a few crashes. We saw one big crash again when the typical event, from 3 lanes to 2 lanes. We had a crash. I don't know if Ben O'Connor was behind that crash. I saw him being dropped. I don't know if it was because of the crash or because of the crash he had before. Do you have any info on Ben O'Connor?
Yeah, no info on Ben yet, but certainly you could see. I mean, I saw him with the the tape all up his back and stuff. The Kinney tape, whatever it's called. So he's clearly struggling from that heavy fall. He fell hard the other day. Mm-hmm. So it's a shame for Ben, it really is. But once again, we've seen another crash where these kind of makeshift barriers are funneling the riders into a road that's, and it's the speed of which you're funneling riders in. It's just, we know what it's like. It's crazy. But once again, the likes of Tadej Pogačar and people like that, they miss all this. Mm-hmm. Which is, part of Tadej's genius, really, is always riding good position. The team have been fantastic with him. But, nothing more on Ben at this stage.
Yeah, okay. Also, Florian Lipowitz got dropped at some point. I think he was held up behind that crash and had to come back or something. Not a great start for him. He's a strong rider. It's 20 seconds here, 30 seconds there. I think ultimately it's not going to matter that much because I'm pretty sure that in the second half of the tour he will come to the front. But not a good start for him and not a good start for Red Bull because Primoz lost time again too today.
Yeah, which is another 32 seconds.
Yeah, and this is a stage that would be Primoz normally. This is Primoz terrain, right?
Did you see his comments that he's been making recently about?
He's kind of
just wanting to get round,
blowing it off, right?
I thought that was quite strange. For Primoz, who's normally very clear and concise about what he wants to achieve. I thought it might be a deflection tactic, but at the same time, his results don't reflect it being a deflection.
Yeah, it may be a tactic to say, okay, you know what, I just want to stay quiet, no pressure. I'm personally not convinced that his team and the team management are going to like these kind of comments. And the sponsor, if this is a guy you pay several millions of euros, you don't want him to say, "Oh, you know what? I don't care." That's not the right way to do it, No. But what to say about UAE? The way
they rode fantastic. Tim Wellens is great again today.
Yeah,
the Belgium duo of Tim and Victor. Victor rode fantastic today. He really is. He's something special, that boy.
Yeah, Victor Kampenaerts was a beast today. That lead out to that 800-meter climb was just. You could see obviously they've studied the course to perfection, like probably everybody else. But then to have a plan and to be able to execute that with the team, you have to have the power. And Victor did this by himself. I haven't calculated, but I think it was like 3-4 kilometers.
Yeah.
They got to the point where it became really technical, a few turns, then a tricky downhill, and Victor just dropped them off at the bottom of that climb, which was amazing. But what to say about? This is for me. That guy. This guy's a genius, João Almeida.
Yeah, he is on paper the best stage race rider in the world this year, isn't he?
Yeah,
he done a fantastic job, and it was that's one of the things with these two teams. You've got Visma and UAE. They Almeida's going to be Tadej's biggest asset into the mountains in this Tour de France, and then on the other side, Visma. How good was Matteo Jorgensen today?
Yeah.
That guy is just. I'm so in awe of him and the way he rides, and he's a real calming figure for Jonas, but he's there every step of the way. And these guys, they're a joy to watch. But I did see comments afterwards when the plan was potentially at one stage with the kilometres to go that they were going to try and let Matteo win the stage, or try and at least get him to win the stage. But it wasn't to be. But it's Almeida was fantastic today again.
Yeah, no. There was one point. I saw with 15 kilometers to go, UAE, where they were impressive. They had 5 riders with Tadej, so 4 riders and Tadej. And it looked like, okay, they're going to go now, right? They're going to go and not slow down anymore. And all of a sudden they slowed down because João Almeida was not there. I think João Almeida was bothered by the crash. And it took a long time. Because they started to go with, I wrote it down here, they started to go with 15K to go. And Almeida only made it to the front with 11K to go. Right. So there was 4 kilometers where he had to try to find his way. I mean, imagine, Bradley, how strong this guy must be, because the effort it takes to come from basically a lost position. And we all know that if they're going so fast, people are getting dropped. So you have to pass little groups. Yeah. He is by far today the champ of the stage. Yeah. Okay, Tadej won it, but it is thanks to Almeida.
Special shout out as well to Oscar Onley, the Scottish rider, who was fourth today. Again, 22 years of age, second Tour de France, won a stage in the Tour de Suisse, but that was a great ride from him.
It was amazing, and what I really was really surprised is that Oscar Onley is one of the guys who's there who didn't need to come back. He was there all the time with the first guys. Yeah, he did not come back because I think it was Vauquelin who came back and Romain Grégoire and another guy. I don't remember the other guy now. But Onley was there straight away, and he was never separated. So we go into that steep climb. Visma leads it out, then UAE takes over. Great pull of Narvaez, and Tadej goes right. What were you thinking when you watched the stage?
I was jumping up and down in the air when Tadej went, but it was the attack was incredible. I mean, it's the thing with Tadej is whether we're on a climb like this that's 800 meters long, that's 11-12%, or whether he's on a 15-kilometer alpine climb, he attacks the same way. Mm-hmm. It's 100%, throws all caution to the wind, and he's going for it, and he doesn't slow down. And it was, it was a little bit of deja vu from that Dauphiné attack when Jonas, because it's always Tadej who's going with Jonas on the wheel, trying his best to stay there. But today was just, we're 4 days into the Tour de France, and we're seeing the heads of the Tour de France come to the fore already. It's unprecedented what this guy's doing. 10 years ago, in your era, in Lance's era, 4 days in, we would never expect to see, the heads of the Tour de France come to the fore this quickly, would we?
No, and especially not on an 800 meter climb, 10%. No. It's unbelievable to see that we have one climb of 800 meters, 10%, and the 2 favorites are riding away from everybody else. That's and the numbers, Johan, as well.
The numbers on that last climb today. 2 minutes at 2,800 VAM.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I saw a little clip of Jurgensen speaking to Jonas after the stage when they were warming down, and Matteo said, I was seeing what I was doing in terms of power output, and then I watched both of you guys disappear, and I couldn't believe it. So that's inside information of how good these guys are, right?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Now, I personally. I'm not reading too much into Jona because there's been, and I know you guys talked about it on the move. Jonas got dropped. Is it really getting dropped? I think it's also, and here's where you see, in my opinion, that Tadej is riding differently and smarter than in the past. In my opinion, he knew very well that if he makes it to the top, even by himself, Jonas is not going to be far away, and he would never go full gas because he would not make it.
No.
Right? He knew that Jurgensen was there. He knew that Mathieu was there who wanted to come back. He knew that Remco was there. So even Tadej would not be able to make it. So I think he has matured in that point of view. That earlier years he would have tried to keep going by himself, and he didn't.
Yeah, but it was a statement nonetheless, wasn't it? And either way, he's capable of efforts like that, and he knew that the guys behind would have to make twice as much effort, in getting dropped, and also to recover over the top to come back to him. So we saw him go over the summit. He didn't keep that effort going, as you said, and he just rolled along and let the other guys come back up to him because his job was already done at that point. He took the edge off the riders behind, the Mathieu van der Poels of this world. Now, that was Mathieu's biggest problem, was recovering from that effort like that to make the sprint finish as well.
I agree. That's the reason why Mathieu didn't win. He had to go so much over the limit on that climb.
And that was Tadej's tactic. Yeah, that was Tadej's tactic.
I still find it incredible, Bradley, to see that you have a guy here who's trying to win his fourth Tour de France, right? That they put so much effort into trying such an early stage. This is how things have changed. And the day before a time trial on top of that. They go full and they both went full. And tomorrow is the first real big appointment. So how fast they recover, right?
But it's funny you say that, Johan, because what happened 30 years ago today, we all know what happened 30 years ago today. Miguel did the same thing into Liège the day before a time trial, didn't he?
Yeah.
And at the time, I can remember watching it at the time, it was unheard of that early in the Tour de France. A rider like Miguel would show his colours that early. And obviously you won the stage, took the jersey, and the time trial the day after. Miguel suffered in the time trial the day after, if you remember, and only won by 5 seconds. He nearly lost that time trial to Bjorn Ries.
Bjorn Ries, exactly. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I read because this week I've been contacted by several media because of this, especially here in Spain. And I read an interview of Sebio Nsue about that stage, and this was not planned. It's Miguel himself who decided during the stage. I think one of the earlier climbs, it was the old-fashioned Liège-Bastogne-Liège parcours, right?
Yeah.
And Miguel had seen that a lot of people were suffering, and he just gave it a try, just to try the opponents. And by surprise, he was by himself. Yeah, but it wasn't planned. But he paid for it the day after, because usually Miguel won time trials with 3 minutes, sometimes 2.5, 3 minutes. And here he won by 5 seconds. So anyways, today, I think both of the big favorites, they went both full gas. And so I think it's quite even.
So on tomorrow's time trial, who are you thinking for tomorrow?
Well, I think Remco. Remco is the big favorite. There's a lot of people who say, Dauphiné, Remco took 25 seconds on one and 40 seconds on the other. So now it's double the distance. I think that's irrelevant. I think it doesn't translate to the same thing in the Tour de France. It's not the same parcours. It's flatter. So you could say, okay, is it better or worse? For Remco, in theory, you would say it's better, right? Because he's the most aero of everybody and the best pure specialist. But I don't think he's going to take double the time he took from the Dauphiné. What do you think?
It's a different time trial, as you say. It's 33 kilometers. It's flat. There was a hill in the Dauphiné time trial, which was, broke the rhythm up a little bit. No, I think we're going to talk about the same people. It's definitely going to be Remco. Got to be the favourite. There's a question mark for me over Remco's A, his confidence, and B, his condition, because we've seen slight chinks in his armour. He has had a couple of tumbles in the first few days. But I think Tadej is up a level from the Dauphiné. And I think Tadej will, Tadej, especially after today, Tadej will be going out. I mean, he's won time trials in the Tour de France in the past. So the Tour de France is where he performs. And I don't think we can read too much into Tadej's Dauphiné performance and, correlate it with how he does tomorrow. The one for me who will be interesting to see, and I've got a sneaking suspicion, it could go Eunice's way tomorrow. Eunice, if we take Tadej out of the equation, this is the best I've seen Eunice in the first week of any Tour de France he's done.
No doubt. No doubt about that.
The only reason we're questioning whether we're still talking about Eunice as second place is because of how good Tadej is. Eunice is better than I think any edition that he won in this race. So and the time trial, we've seen him win a time trial on the Tour in the past. Eunice is time trialing better than he's ever time trialed, and that was proven at the Dover Day. So I think it could be interesting tomorrow. Jonas could spring a surprise and, shake this GC up a little bit. Whether that equates to what happens in the mountains or not, I don't know. But from a first week standpoint, it'll be interesting to see Jonas tomorrow.
It would be great. It would be great. Now, going back to our discussion of yesterday, Brad, about the polka dot jersey, giving away the polka dot jersey, and if it was for podium obligations or for the skin suit.
We can forget everything we said yesterday. We can forget everything we said yesterday.
Today is back in polka dot now, and I think it was it was a logical scenario. I think they should have known also on beforehand, because if the plan was for today to attack on that last climb, he was going to take the points and be back in the polka dot jersey.
Yeah. I mean, we were speculating when we yesterday, and probably got it wrong. And it looks like that the main reason for that was he wanted to win his 100th win in the World Championship jersey, which I hadn't considered. But that's quite a confident stance, isn't it? To think that far ahead and think, you know what? If I win tomorrow, or when I win tomorrow, I want to win in the World Championship jersey, my 100th victory.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think that you kind of design these scenarios on beforehand, and that's the way you want to do it, where the majority of the riders are just desperate to try to win a stage. Yeah. He wants to win his 100th stage, and he had the polka dot jersey. He wanted to lose it because he wanted to win in the rainbow jersey, right?
Yeah.
By the way, I did some research on the discussion we had yesterday about being able to use your own skin suits with your own fabric. It's forbidden. ASO is very quite a dictator in that matter, I would say. They forced you to wear the skin suits. There is, however, so the technicians of it's Santini, right? The brand. So the technicians of the Santini go tonight to the hotel of the yellow jersey, and everybody else who is wearing another leader's jersey can go there, and they have rollers there. They can bring their bike. They can be in the time trial position, and they actually stitch there on the spot, up to measure the skin suits. I still think, however, that it's not right.
That in itself, Johan, is quite a process, isn't it? When you've raced all day today, and you've got to go and spend 20 minutes having stitched.
Exactly. And and as we said yesterday, these big teams, especially the big teams, they invest a lot of resources in trying to have the fastest fabric ever. And then on top of that, the comfort of your own clothing that you're used to, the chamois, for example.
The chamois, the contact point is, we all know that's the most important part, isn't it? Through any Grand Tour, is keeping, and back in my day when we had Sky, we were sponsored by Nalini, make all the kit, but I would have Assos, who were the best chamois. I would send all my shorts to Assos, and they would put Assos chamois in my Nalini shorts. And the contact point, even in time trialing, you know how easy it is to get a saddle sore, especially on the time trial bike, because the chair's higher.
It's the worst. It's the worst. You can really have. You can have rash, and I still don't get it. But ASO rules, as we all know.
That's it.
One last thing that I wanted to ask your opinion about. I know you're favoring Jonas for tomorrow. I remarked the difference in freshness today after the finish between Tadej and Jonas. They both went full gas, of course. They both went full up that last climb, and they both went full up the finishing straight. Tadej to try to win the stage, Jonas to try to not lose any time and take bonifications, which he did. So great job by Jonas again. The same top three, by the way, as 2 days ago. Same three riders. And the order is different, but Tadej, I watched an interview of him, and this was 5 minutes after he finished. He was sitting there. The first interview, takes off the helmet, starts to talk, fresh as a daisy. Unbelievable how fresh he looked, straight recovered. And then straight after, I saw images from Jonas at the finish getting drinks. It was maybe 2-3 minutes earlier than that, but not much more. And completely destroyed, hanging over his bike. So I found it quite remarkable, the opposite, being fresh and Jonas really went deep. But if you look back actually to because today was the first time they really were head to head on that steep climb. Last year, for example, we all thought about stage 2 up to Santa Catarina, and there was a lot of doubts about Jonas, his form, and Tadej tried, and he was able to hang on. Also, so there's not much difference,
No.
So we'll see. Anyway, we'll finish our show with the daily Ventum trivia. The question of yesterday for stage 3 was history was made at the finish of stage 3 of the 2024 Tour de France. What happened? The answer was many people thought it was about Mark Cavendish. It was not. It was Binyam Girmay, who became the first Black African to win a stage at the Tour de France. Stage 4 question. You want to get that, Bradley?
Yes, the stage 4's question is, while not a famous summit in the Tour, stage 4 features the Côte de Jacques Anquetil, a 2.6 kilometre category 4 climb named after the French cyclist Jacques Anquetil. What 2 things did Anquetil accomplish to get this climb named in his honour?
Okay, well, send your best guess, or if you know the answer, just send your answer to ventumracing.com/themove, and you will enter to win this year's grand prize. It's $5,000 of store credit towards any Ventum bike. If you don't want to wait for the end of the competition, which we will draw at the end of the tour, Ventum is also offering a standing discount during the whole duration of the tour. So you get 10% off the whole site with the code THEMOVE10. Or you get 20% off any NS1 bike with the code NS120. Tomorrow we'll be back with another question, and we'll be you giving the answer about Jacques Anquetil. Until then, Bradley, thanks very much for joining, as always, and speak tomorrow. Okay, bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.